barriers. And he will be sharing with us how he has worked to overcome them. Let's welcome Chris with his speech, Toastmasters Breaking Down Barriers.
I started my Toastmaster journey about 10 years ago. And between now and then, Toastmasters has allowed me to tear down some communication barriers in my life. It's actually allowed me to leapfrog my communication abilities to the point and level that I had once dared not dream of. Tonight, think about the communication barriers in your lives. What is holding you back? What do you need to overcome? Tonight I'm going to share 3 barriers that I've overcome and still fight to this day. Barrier number 1. Notes. Have you ever seen a child cling to its mother's leg, scared to death? These notes were my mother's leg. And I was the one that was clinging to it. Why did I stick with these notes? Why were they such of importance to me? I was afraid that if I didn't have them with me, I'd be standing up here with my mouth wide open and have nothing to say, which that happened to me once. That's probably one reason why I held on to my notes. Plus, I also wanted to make sure that I said every little thing that I had typed out in my notes. I worked so hard writing them out word for word. I wanted to make sure that I said every word. I wanted to make sure every point was made. But then what I realized is, while I'm standing up here looking at my notes, I'd lost contact with everybody in this room. Not good. I had seen other Toastmasters not use notes, and I thought to myself, is that something that I could do? Some people in here have been able to stand up, give their speech without notes on their first speech. It was speech number 10, this very speech I'm giving tonight. That was the first time that I decided not to use notes. And what I did is I told a personal story, one that I knew by heart. And I gave that speech, and guess what? Nothing bad happened. It actually went well. And I realized maybe I could start giving speeches without using my notes. To do this, I started out using an outline. That way, they weren't as much of a crutch to me. And then I eventually stopped using them at all, or very minimally. And that was such a great confidence boost to me. I was able to tear down that one barrier, notes. The second barrier, this lectern and table. These were very important to me. A caveman in his cave, the cave for protection. Mm-hmm. You all were the angry, ferocious animals. And this was my cave and protected me. I started thinking about this as well. Why were these things so important to me? I knew why the table was important to me because if I stood back here, you can see my leg shake. And with the lectern, I could put my notes here, and that way you wouldn't see my notes shaking or my hands shaking. But once again, if I stood behind here, what am I doing? I'm creating a barrier from you all. I'm not connecting to the audience. Not good. Once again, I thought back to other Toastmasters that I'd seen who had not used the lectern or the table. I'd quit using the notes. Now is time to go forward and not use these. And that was many years later until a table topic question. I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to stand out in front of this and do my table topic. I gave my table topic. Guess what? That wasn't bad either. It actually worked out. I did the table topic, and it didn't feel much different out here than it does behind here. Once again, another confidence boost. Like, wow, another barrier destroyed. I think Steve Blake says it best. I don't need no stinking notes. I don't need no stinking lectern. I don't need no stinking tables. Let's get this thing out of here. The third barrier, now this is one that I had just started approaching last year. And I talked about it in my last speech. And that is doing a self-evaluation on myself. How do you do that? You have to watch yourself and hear yourself. Those are two things that I didn't want to do. I've seen old movies with me in them whenever I was a young kid. And if you think I look nerdy now, I looked really nerdy in those videotapes. And I was like, I do not want to see that. But I once again realized that's holding me back. If I want to get better, I need to see what's going on. And I'd heard other Toastmasters say, gee, it helped me a lot whenever I watched my videos. One day, as I said about a year ago, I decided to watch some of the videos that I'd given, or where a speech I'd given in this club. And I'm sad to say that I only have a handful of those videos. The others I didn't keep. But I watched that video and realized, guess what? It wasn't that bad. It was a lot better than I thought. Sure, I needed to work on my gestures, where I use the stage, how I'm using the stage, maybe some vocal variety. And I realized I had really been missing out. And by doing these self-evaluations, now I can see all of this and work on it, rather than having someone tell me about it. That was the third barrier. Now that I've shared my 3 barriers with you, think about the barriers that could be holding you back. It's taken me 10 years to overcome some of these. And I'm sure I've got more to go, and I'll take 20 or 30 years if I need to work on them. I broke down the barrier of using notes. I broke down the barrier of the select, turn, and table. And I broke down the barrier of being self-conscious and having the ability to evaluate myself. Once again, think about your barriers. If you need a hammer or a bulldozer, tear through them. You'll be glad you did. Madeline, Toastmasters.